Hello everyone, welcome to my channel SRH Creation. Here I am Sarmin Huda from Alia University second year Civil Engineering. Today I will discuss about wood. As you know, what is wood? Wood is one of the most used natural building materials in the world. A number of valuable properties such as low heat conductivity, small bulk density, relatively high strength, amenability to mechanical working, etc. makes wood as famous building material. Timber can be used in most economical way without wasting any of the derivative of it. Even the sawdust obtained during wood sawing can also be used to make fiber boards, paper, etc. Now next is types of trees. The trees are classified into two types, exogenous and endogenous. Exogenous trees are outward growing trees. Horizontal section of such trees contain several rings, which are nothing but annual rings. These rings can be used to predict the age of tree. Most of the exogenous trees are useful for many engineering purposes. Exogenous trees are subclassified into following: conifers and deciduous. Conifers are nothing but soft wood producing trees. Coniferous trees are pine, redwood, deodar, etc. And deciduous trees are hardwood producing trees. They are maple, mahogany, walnut, bamboo, etc. Now next is endogenous. Endogenous trees are inward growing trees which contains fibrous mass in longitudinal section. The timber from these trees is useful in some limited engineering purposes. The indigenous trees are bamboo, palm, etc. Now we will move to the structure of a tree. The structure of a tree can be divided into two categories, macrostructure and microstructure. Macrostructure of a tree which is visible to the naked eye is called macrostructure of tree. Macrostructure of tree contains following components: pith, hardwood, sapwood, cambium layer, inner bark, outer bark, medullary rays. What is pith? The core part of innermost part of the tree is called as pith. It contains cellulose tissues which are helpful for the growth of plants during its young age. Second is hardwood. Hardwood is the portion around the pith which is dark in color and contains some annual rings in it. It is very hard and provides rigidity to the tree. Hardwood is used for several engineering purposes because of its strength and durability. Now, next is sapwood. Sapwood contain outer annual rings. This indicates the recent growth of tree and is light in color. It contains sap which helps in the growth of trees. Now, what is cambium layer? Cambium layer contains sapwood which will turn into sapwood after some time. It should not exposed to atmosphere, otherwise the tree may dead. Next one, inner bark. The protecting layer of cambium layer is known as inner bark. Outer bark. The outermost layer of the tree section is called outer bark or cortex. And next is medullary rays. The rays extending from pith to cambium layer are known as medullary rays. These rays hold the annual rings of sapwood and hardwood together. Now what is microstructure? The structure of tree which is not visible to the naked eye is called microstructure of tree. Now we will move to characteristics of good timber. The principal characteristics of timber of concern are strength, durability, and finished appearance. Narrow annual rings, closer the ring, greater it is the strength. Compact medullary rays, dark color, uniform texture, heavy weight, free from defect in timber, no woolliness at fresh cut surface. Now we'll move to next point, seasoning of timber. Seasoning is the process of drying timber to remove the bound moisture contained in walls so of the wood cells to produce seasoned timber. Seasoning can be achieved in a number of ways, but the aim is to remove water at a uniform rate through the piece of to prevent damage to the wood during drying. Seasoning of timber are classified into two types, natural seasoning and artificial seasoning. Natural seasoning of timber is the process in which timber is dried by using natural elements such as air or water. Air seasoning is the oldest, traditional and simplest method of the seasoning of timber. Now, what is artificial seasoning? Artificial seasoning are is classified into three types: water seasoning, boiling, kiln seasoning. Now, what is water seasoning? The logs of wood are kept completely immersed in running stream of water with their large ends pointing upstream. Consequently, the sap, sugar, and gum are leached out and are replaced by water. The logs are then kept out in air to dry. It is quick process, but the elastic properties and strength of the wood are reduced. Now next process is boiling. The boiling in water or exposing the wood to action of steam spray is very quick but expensive process of seasoning. Now next process is skin seasoning. Skin seasoning is adapted for rapid seasoning of timber on large scale to any moisture content. The circulating air takes up moisture required from wood and season it. Two types of kiln seasoning, progressive seasoning and compartment seasoning. You can see the progressive kilns and this is the compartment seasoning. Now classification of timber on the basis of its position: standing timber, rough timber, converted timber. Standing timber implies a living tree, and rough timber forms a part of a felled tree. Or converted timbers are long of timber shown into planks, posts, etc. On the basis of grading. All grading specifications are clearly distinguished between structural or stress grading and commercial or utility grading based on Indian standard classification. Commercial grading, also known as yard grading or utility grading, refers to the principle by the which material is graded by consideration of usefulness of material and price factors. Structural grading divided into two types. Grading based on known effect of defect and estimating accumulative value, and machine grading. On the basic of modulus elasticity. The species of timber recommended for constructional purpose are classified as Group A, Group B, Group C. Group A modulus of elasticity is bending above 12.5 kN per millimeter square, and Group B modulus of elasticity in bending above 9.8 kilonewton per millimeter square and below 12.5 kilonewton per millimeter square, and group C modulus of elasticity in bending above 5.6 kilonewton per millimeter square and below 9.8 kilonewton per millimeter square. Classification based on availability. Based on availability, there are three types: most common X, common Y, and less common Z. Now, based on durability, test specimen of size 600 cross 550 cross 50 millimeter are buried in the round to half their lengths. There are three types based on durability: high durability, moderate durability, low durability. High durability, average life of 120 months and over, and moderate durability, average life of less than 120 months but of 60 months or more, and low durability, average life of less than 60 months. On the basis of seasoning characteristics: highly refractory, moderately refractory, and non-refractory. Highly refractory class A are slow and difficult to season, free from defects, and moderately refractory may be seasoned free from surface defect if some protection is given against rapid drying. And now non-refractory, these can be rapidly seasoned free from defect. Now we will move to the defects in timber due to natural forces. Defects can occur in timber at various stages, principally during the growing period and during conversion and seasoning process. Now we can see wind cracks in timber. What is wind cracks in timber? If the wood is exposed continuously to high-speed winds, the outer surface shrinks and forms cracks externally, which are called wind cracks. Now, second one is shakes in timber. There are many types of shakes: cup shakes, heart shakes, ring shakes, star shakes, and radial shakes. Cup shakes are formed due to the non-uniform growth of a tree or excessive bending by cyclones or winds. In this case, the shakes develop between annual rings and separate them partly. And now heart shakes are the other type of shakes which develop in maturity approaching trees whose inner part is under shrinkage. The shake spread from pith to sabut following the direction of medullary rays. Now, what is ring shakes? Are similar to cup shakes but they completely separate the annual rings. Now, what is star shakes? Are formed due to the extreme hard to severe frost action. They develop wider cracks on outside of timber from bark to the sap wood. Now, third is twisted fibers in timber. When the tree in its younger age is exposed to high-speed winds, the fibers of wood get twisted. This type of wood is not suitable for sewing, so this can be used for making poles, posts, etc. Now, fourth one is upsets. Upsets, a defect of timber in which The fibers of the wood are crushed and compressed by fast blowing winds or inappropriate chopping of trees. Now, fifth one is rind-gulls. Rind-gulls are curved swelling of trees which are formed at a point where a branch of a tree is improperly removed or fell down. Now, bulbs. Bulbs are uneven projections on the body of tree during its growth. These are mainly due to the effect of shocks and injuries received by the tree during its young age. Now, water stain. When the wood is in contact with water for some time, the water will damage the color, the wood and forms a stain on its surface. This defect is called water stain. Now, chemical stain. Chemical stain is formed on the wood by the action of any external chemical agents like reaction by the gases present in the atmosphere, etc. The stain area gets discolored in this defect. Now, dead wood. The dead wood obtained from the cutting of the dead tree is light in weight and actually defected. It is reddish in color and strength is very less. Now, knots in timber. The central part of stem of a tree is majorly used in conversion of timber. Branches from the stem are removed and the whole rounded stem is taken. But the base of branches from a mark of the stem which result in a dark colored stain on the surface after conversion. These dark colored stain are due to the continuity of wood fibers. These dark colored rings are known as knots. Now, quartz grain defect in timber. The age of tree can be known by the number of annual rings. For fast growing trees, the gap between the annual rings is very large. This type of trees is called as quartz grain trees. The timber obtained from them is of less strength. Timber foxiness. When the timber is stored without proper ventilation, the trees growing near the banks of water bodies and the over matured trees may exhibit this type of defects. Foxiness is generally indicated by red or yellow spots. Now, Droxiness. Droxiness is a defect of timber in which the top surface of a timber indicates white spots. The white spots is called droxiness. Now, last one is callus. The wood of the tree is covered by soft skin which is called callus. Now, defects in timber due to fungi. Dry rot in timber. Dry rot is caused by certain types of fungi that eat wood for their living. They make food by converting timber into dry powder. From this occurs mainly when there is no ventilation of air or if the wood improperly seasoned, absence of sunlight, dampness, presence of air will increase the growth of dry rot causing fungi. This can be prevented by using well seasoned wood and also be painting the timber surface with copper surface. Now next one is wet root in timber. Wet root is caused by fungi that decompose the timber and convert it into grayish brown powder, mainly when there are alternate dry and wet condition of timber. Now brown rot in timber. The cellulose compounds of the root are consumed by certain types of fungi which then makes the wood brownish, and this defect is called brown rot. Now white rot in timber. White rot timber is some types of fungi attacked lignin of timber and leave cellulose compounds. Hence the wood will turn into white color. This is called white rot in timber. Blue stain in timber. Blue stain is a defect caused by some kinds of fungi which makes the timber bluish. Hard rot in timber. Hard rot is generated in the trees when fungi attack the hardwood through its newly formed branch. This type of fungi makes the tree hollow by consuming hardwood. This defect is known as hard rot in timber. Sap stain in timber. When the moisture contained in the timber is more than 25%, some types of fungi attack on sapwood and makes it discolored. This type of defect is known as sap stain in timber. Now we will move to defects in timber due to seasoning. Bow. When the converted timber is stored for a longer time, some timber planks may have a curve along its length, which is known as bow. Now next one is cup. The timber planks curve along its width, then it's called cupping of timber. Check. Check is the formation of a crack in the wood which will separate the wood fibers they from due to over seasoning of timber. Next one is split. Split forms when a cheek extends from one end to another end, which will split the wood into a number of species. Now next one is twist. Twist from when the timber piece is destroyed spirally along its length. It looks like blade after twisting. Honeycombing. Honeycombing occurs in inner part of timber which cannot identified by just seeing. It is mainly due to stresses development during the drying of timber. Now, case hardening. Case is nothing but top surface of wood which dries rapidly during seasoning, but the inner part did not. Then this defect is called case hardening. Next one is collapse. During drying, some parts of the wood may dry rapidly while some may not because of improper drying. This is called collapse. Next one is warp. Warping is the loss of shape of wood due to stresses developed during drying. Cupping, bowing, twisting of wood come under warping. Last one is radial shakes. Radial shakes developed after the trees being felled down and exposed to the sun for seasoning. In this case, the cracks run radially from bark to the pith through annual rings. Now, defects in timber during conversion. Diagonal grain defect in timber. During the conversion of timber, different cutting saws are used. The cutting should be done properly. If there is any improper cutting by saw, then a diagonal grains will appear. Next one is torn grain. In the conversion, many tools are used. If any of the tools of any other heavy things are dropped accidentally on the finished surface of timber, it will cause small depression, which is called turn grain. Next one is chip mark. When the timber is cut through the planing machine and the parts of machine may from chip mark on it. Usually they are indicated by chip on the finished surface. Next one is 1. The edge part of the timber log contains a round edge on the side because of its original rounded surface. This rounded edge is called 1. Defects in timber due to the insects. Termites in timber. Termites, also known as white ants, switch from a colony inside the timber and eat the core part of timber rapidly. They do not disturb the outer layer of timber, so one cannot identify their presence. The trees in tropical and subtropical regions are mostly affected by tree terminates. However, some trees like tree the trees in tropical and subtropical regions are most affected by these termites. Now next one is beetles in timber. Beetles are type of insects that destroys the sapwood of tree and make a tunnel-like hole from the bark. Usually the diameter of the hole is around 2 millimeters. They convert sapwood into powder from and these beetles use those holes. Almost all hardwood trees can be prone to damage by these beetles. Now marine borers in timber. Marine borers are found near coastal areas. They are not consume wood, but they make large holes of diameter up to 25 millimeters in the timber to live inside it. They excavated up to 60 millimeter deep in the wood. The wood attacked by marine beavers of less strength and discolored. They can attack all types of trees present in their region. Now, preservation of timber. Coal tar for preservation of timber is heated and obtained liquid hot tar is applied on timber surface using brush. Coal tar contains unpleasant smell and does not allow paint on it, so it is used for door frames, window frames, etc. AACU preservation for timber. AACU is special preservative which is available in powder form. It is dissolved in water to get preservative solution. It should be added 6 parts by weight of AACU in 100 parts by weight of water. The final solution is applied on timber by spraying. The solution does not contain any odor. It is useful mainly to get rid from white ants. AACU contains hydrate, arsenic, copper sulfate or blue vitriol and sodium dichromate or potassium dichromate in it. Next one is chemical salts for preservation of timber. Chemical salts like copper, sulfate, mercury chloride and zinc chloride are used for preservation which can be dissolved in water to get liquid solution. They are odorless and do not generally flame when the contact with fire. Oil paints preservation for timber. Oil paints are suitable for well-seasoned wood. They are generally applied in 3 or 2 coats. Oil paints preservation timber from moisture. If timber is not seasoned, then oil paints may lead to decay of timber by confining sap. Next one is Solignum paints for preservation of timber. Solignum paints are applied in hot condition using brush. They are well suitable for preservative timber from white and solignum points can be used by adding color pigments so the timber has good appearance. Creosote oil for preservation timber. Creosote oil is prepared by the distillation of tar. It is black or brown in color. It contains unpleasant smell. It is applied in a special manner. Firstly, the timber is well seasoned and dried. Then it's placed air-tight chamber and inside air pumped out. Finally, creosote oil is pumped into the chamber with help pressure about 1 Newton per millimeter square at a temperature of 50 degrees centigrade. Now, method of timber preservation. brushing of timber preservation, spraying of timber preservation, preservating injecting under pressure, dipping and stepping method of timber preservation, charring method of timber preservation, hot and cold open tank treatment for treatment. Properties of wood. There are so many property: specific gravity, shrinkage, swelling, heat conductivity, sound conductivity. Specific gravity. Moisture content structural element is 12 to 20% for doors and 10 to 16% for windows. Next one, shrinkage. Linear shrinkage along the fibers lies between 0.1 and 0.3% in radial direction between 3 and 6%. Swelling. Swelling of wood along the length of fibers ranges from 0 to 1 to 0 to 8%, 3 to 5% in the radial direction. Heat conductivity. The coefficient of heat conductivity along the fibers is 1.8 times greater than that across the fibers and average 0.15 to 0.27. Sound conductivity. The velocity of sound in wood is 2 to 17 times greater than that air, such as wood may be considered to have high sound conductivity. Now, wood-based products, you can see veneers, plywood, fibers, boards, and particle boards.